there's one person who builds, there's one person who sells. So that's the philosophy that I follow. So I know that I can sell, right?
Yeah.
But I wanted to find somebody, to build.
And what's very intriguing about your journey is like founders, like they miss a lot of opportunities around.
Yeah.
What I really love about your journey is that you had a broader mindset.
Yeah.
You and Yash sort of put your heads together, looked into a lot of opportunity areas, and then like arrived at a solution.
So we started posting a lot about our journey on LinkedIn.
Nice.
And that started getting us like a lot of inbound from brands, right? So like the first 2-3 customers we closed like that. And then within the next 1 month, we got 7-8 customers more.
Wow.
No product, 2 people, Yash and me, and we have no idea how to serve these customers now. And then AI is doing everything for you, right? I mean, it is writing code, it is being your personal assistant, it's doing your itinerary, it is doing your LinkedIn post, it's doing everything for you, right? So it has at least gotten me 2x more productive.
Are there any unique challenges that you've encountered with that tag?
With being a woman?
What happens when deep strategy meets cutting-edge creativity, and both are powered by tech? Today's guest is Astha Rajpal, the co-founder of Aina, a fashion tech startup that's building the future of fashion visuals, helping brands create stunning, intelligent, and scalable content without the traditional hassle of photo shoots and production budgets. Hi, Astha.
Hi, Swati. Thanks for having me.
Of course, it's such a pleasure to have you on the podcast. I have my first question for you. Could you walk us through what Aina does and how the solution actually works?
So at Aina, we are helping apparel brands do their photo shoots in a much scalable, in a much diverse, and in a much economical way, right? So with us, brands spend way less on photography, and they can go live as fast as in a day, right? So that's the first thing that we started working with, but we have also started working on videos with brands. So your cataloging requires videos as well, and then your infographics is another thing that we have been working on. And then we have also started moving to a bit on the marketing side as well, where the brands, whatever goes on Instagram, whatever goes on like your physical store banner images, so that is something also that is possible through Aina now.
That's amazing. It's a multi-tiered approach, right? Based on how customized a client wants their solution.
Absolutely.
How important is customization for you guys? And what was your process in learning what clients sort of want in terms of a customized solution?
Absolutely. So at Aina, we have always kept like customers' needs at heart, right? When we started building, I think like we got the validation first that this is the problem statement, and that's when we actually built it. So the first thing that we solved was for cataloging, and we have been since then we have been like building with the customer whatever like they've been asking for. So cataloging was one, cataloging images was one, then of course videos was the other, and like of course then we like moved to the other use cases of marketing as well.
Okay, that's awesome. Like learning with what the market is sort of demanding, right?
Absolutely. We got our hero customers who were like ready to adopt AI like at the start. And then, we have been like, working with them to understand the pain points that they have been going with and like, building for it.
Yeah. And you mentioned hero customers. Would you like to name some?
Absolutely. So we work with the likes of Indian Garage. We work with Lee, Wrangler. We recently started working with Aditya Birla Group. So we onboarded. We actually not onboarded. We went live with Louis Philippe, Alan Solly, and we have also been like working with Van Heusen. So yeah, hopefully like some images would be going soon with Van Heusen as well.
That is amazing. So that's so good to know in terms of like the brands that you're working for are household names in the Indian market and globally, right?
Yeah.
So Astha, I do want our viewers to understand your journey more intimately. Can you share what sort of inspired you to take the leap from your amazing job at Razorpay to being an entrepreneur?
Absolutely. So I think when I was in Razorpay, I was 28 years old, and I've always wanted to do something of myself. I had a little startup in college. It was called Bridge Gap.
Okay.
And I think, I didn't earn much, but the thrill of getting revenue, the thrill of getting customers was so amazing. And in whatever jobs that I had worked with, right? I worked with ZS, I worked with Oyo, I worked with Razorpay. I always felt that, that thrill, whatever I did, however hard I pushed myself, that thrill was not coming. And I'd remembered my time at Bridge Gap, right? And we were working 16 hours a day. And that was the best time of my life, right? I was like, this is it. I don't care about money. I don't care about anything else. And that's when, I thought that like, hey, I'm 28 years old, right? Not like I have any responsibility. So I just like moved back to my dad's house and like, I was like, okay, I'll just give myself a year and like, let's see if something works or not.
Amazing.
Because I don't want to go to my deathbed and regret that, I had a great opportunity and I did not do it.
Yeah.
So I was like, I'm going to take like this risk for a year. What's the worst that will happen? Probably I'll have some learnings and that's it, right? We'll see.
Yeah.
So that pushed me because I wanted to have that feeling again of, building something, getting customers, getting the kick of revenue. So that's why I started.
That is amazing. And I love that philosophy of no regrets, right? And taking the risk when you can.
Absolutely.
Versus like when you're stuck in a cycle and you're unable to take that risk.
Absolutely.
Thank you for sharing that, Astha. It's very inspiring to hear your journey. And I'm curious, you mentioned Bridge Gap. Would you like to share what Bridge Gap was about?
Absolutely. So again, it was like based on my personal problem, right? So when I like entered college from 12th standard, like it's like very different from like, your traditional school, right?
Yeah.
You have CBSE, you know what to do. But like when you're in college, like you don't know, right? Like what to study, what to do, right? It's like suddenly like you have too much things going. Yeah. My grades like went way down. Okay.
Yeah.
Thankfully, I didn't fail, but it was like, oh my God, it's such a shocker. I've never seen such numbers in my life. So the idea was to help, freshers who are coming in to bridge the gap from 12th standard to the first year of college.
Oh,
so
wow.
essentially, like we provided them like all the books that they need. We gave them, all the kits, drafters, lab coats, and we also gave them. So we partnered with the college for this initiative. And we got like last year's papers and all the study materials. So we like put all of it together in a package and like sold it to freshers.
Oh wow, that's amazing.
And within a month, I think we did 20-25 lakhs of revenue.
Wow, that is a good number. Obviously, for your very first venture that you're starting, right out of your K-12 education, right?
Yeah.
But also, like the crucial point here is based on your personal pain points.
Absolutely,
right?
that was like the lemon stand idea for me, right? Because it just like, even today, when I'm selling it to the customers, that's the happiest, like part of my entrepreneurship journey. So that's the first taste of it when I got it back then.
No, thank you. Thanks for sharing that, Astha. It's definitely very inspiring. What I want to understand next is what were some of the biggest challenges that you faced as a founder, the early days of you starting up?
Absolutely. Yeah. So I think the first one is getting a co-founder. So I know my skill set.
Yeah.
I know I can sell. I can build a business around it. I know what I bring, but like I know that what I'm not good at as well, right? I don't know how to code, right? And what I believe is to have a successful business, there has to be like a good product, and there is somebody who takes the product out, right? Somebody who sells. There's one person who builds, there's one person who sells. So that's the philosophy that I follow. So I know that I can sell, right? But I wanted to find somebody to build, right? So I went on this journey for like 3-4 months where you're aimlessly talking to people. I remember it was like another dating, where I'm trying to find a co-founder. It was like a co-founder dating that was happening, right? I'm talking to like 2, 3, 4 people that, hey, I want to do this, like this is the idea, that's the idea. And then imagine like when you're working for nothing, right? Something that's like doesn't exist, something that will not
Yeah.
exist, right? People are not motivated, right? People are like in their shell. They don't want to come out of their comfort zone, right?
Definitely, yeah.
So finding the right energy, finding the right skill set was very difficult for me. But thankfully, like I found my co-founder Yash,
Yeah.
like who matched my energy, like just at point, right? He was a good executioner, like I was, and he was able to like ship product fast, which I could take it to the market too, right? Because however you will say like that, we'll do this, we'll do that, but like market really responds to a good product.
Yeah.
You might like want to say, yeah, sure, that's a great problem, please solve it for me. But unless like even if you don't see like 1% of some solving in the problem, right? Nobody's like really going to come and like talk to you as well, right?
Yeah.
So that's what we did. Like the first one was like finding a co-founder. Second was finding a good problem statement, right? Because again, there are like a lot of tar pit ideas, but finding like what is actually it's gonna a good problem statement, right? First
Yeah.
to find a good problem statement and then to find a good solution for it as well. So yeah, I mean these were like the couple of things that I went on to for my like entrepreneurship journey.
No, makes sense a lot. And definitely the co-founder part, since I know Yash, I know like his entrepreneurial drive and execution definitely matches yours.
Yes.
So you got lucky there.
Absolutely, I definitely got very lucky.
Yeah. And Asta, like, since you talked a little bit about the problem and solution part of like how Aina came into being, what are like those specific opportunities or pain points that you identified that made Aina into what Aina is today?
Absolutely. So I definitely feel that founding Aina was like very serendipitous. So we like even in the million years never thought that we'll be doing this. I'll be very honest. We were looking for finance ideas, SaaS ideas,
Yeah.
all that stuff, because that's what like I've seen in my life, right? Business analyst, co-pilot, and whatnot. I think we went on to 100 plus ideas like
Wow.
while like in that 5-6 months of journey, like before we got to Aina. So and again, like while we were talking to some brands, we were pitching some financial solution that hey, what, your inventory is a mess, like why don't we coming and especially for apparel, right, where there's like 40% of returns and like omni-channel and whatnot, right? So it's a mess, right?
Yeah.
So we just started speaking to some brands on the financial planning side that hey, what, like if we can do that.
Yeah.
And couple of other brands like came to us, and like somehow the photo shoots were like getting discussed.
Yeah.
And Yash on the other hand like was creating like a B2C app as well,
Okay.
where you can do your headshots, right? So you put in like 15-16 images of yourself, and
Yeah.
then you can just prompt it out, say Swati sitting on a beach sipping a pina colada, right? And it will create that.
Okay.
So Yash was sort of like thinking to create a B2C app.
Yeah.
And we just happened to show it to, I mean, no context, we just like serendipity, right? We showed it to the brand that we were talking to, and they're like, hey,
Yeah.
can you do like my photo shoot through this? And we looked at it and we were like, I mean, okay, we can try, right? So, and that's how it came into existence, right? We actually built like a very, very fast MVP.
Okay.
I think in 2 to 3 weeks, Yash
Wow.
shipped it. Like he created like a workflow,
Uh-huh.
and we were able to do photo shoots, right? Where we were able to keep the garment intact, but change the model and change the background to create a stunning image.
Oh, wow.
So that's how like Aina came into existence.
No, that's very, very interesting. And what's very intriguing about your journey is like founders get very hooked on to an idea.
Yeah.
They're like, okay, this is $1 million idea, or this is something groundbreaking that I'm going to work on.
Yeah.
And they don't like, they miss a lot of opportunities around. So
Yeah.
what I really love about your journey is that you had a broader mindset.
Yeah.
You and Yash sort of put your heads together, looked into a lot of opportunity areas, and then like arrived at a solution. And then also like sort of made it more serendipitous, as you said, of how things evolved, right? For you, because you had your mindset around a number of different opportunities that you had sort of evaluated and tried to execute on.
Yeah.
So thank you for sharing that, Asta. Can you share a little bit around your fundraising journey?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So I think when So I mean, we went like the very non-traditional way, right? So once we had like started building the MVP, so again, like we were like going after a wrong target segment.
Mhm.
So we like approached a lot of like smaller brands that, hey, you know what, we're doing this, like, are you interested? I remember like doing that for 10, 15, 20 brands,
Mhm.
and like nothing worked. And I
Okay.
thought that, I mean, I thought like we have this great idea, you know,
Uh-huh.
we executed all of it, and like why is it like this should be like that your brands are coming and jumping on this, that, you know, I want this, I want this.
Yeah.
But that did not happen, right?
Uh-huh.
So I started doing this. I started reaching out to a bit bigger brands.
Mhm.
So the first brand that we onboarded actually was Clovia, right?
Mhm.
They were the first ones that we ever got live with.
Wow.
Right,
Okay.
even like before the company was formed, even the any penny of funding came into the
Uh-huh.
company. So when we got with Clovia, so we went to Zivame that, you
Mhm.
know what, hey, like, you know, like Clovia is interested in something
Yeah.
like this, would you also like to explore this? And surprisingly, they were also super interested to do this.
Nice.
And then, you know, we started posting. So like people say that, you know, build with people. So we started posting a lot about our journey on LinkedIn.
Nice.
And that started getting us like a lot of inbound from brands, right? So like the first 2-3 customers we closed like that, and then within the next 1 month we got 7-8 customers more.
Wow.
No product, like no product, we had a technology, but
Yeah.
like no product.
Uh-huh.
2 people, Yash and me,
Uh-huh.
and we have no idea how to serve these customers now. And then that's when we thought
Yeah.
that, you know, this is something that is a good problem, and there's a good validation for this.
Yeah.
And we might like, we should hire a team for this, right?
And move fast.
And
as
move
well.
fast,
Yeah.
right? Like, let's capitalize on the opportunity that we have created.
Yeah.
And that's when, you know, we started talking to some investors. Inflexer was the one who like really believed in our vision. They really believed in Yash and me. And like they went ahead, like, and within 2 months we were able to close
Oh, wow.
our $1.5 million
That is amazing. That's a very quick closure time, right? I was
Yeah.
going to ask that question, but thanks
Yeah.
for sharing.
Yeah.
And that is a testament to, okay, when there is a product market fit,
Yes.
you close things fast, right? And you have to
Absolutely.
move fast.
Absolutely.
And building on that, I would want to ask, how have you been staying competitive? What has your strategy been on staying competitive when things in the AI world are moving so fast?
Right. So I think for us, like, we always believed in building a like world-class product, right? So definitely like models are gonna get more powerful,
Yeah.
but like we see that as a strength and not as a weakness, right? Because there needs to be somebody who's gonna help these companies adopt, right? We feel that, you know, the apparel brands, Aditya Birla, Reliance, they will not adopt it directly. They will not directly use these models. And there has to be a product layer in between.
Yeah. Okay.
Where we feel the opportunity is, right? And to stay competitive, you know, as I said, right, our DNA has always been building with customers, building the smaller things that, you know, competition might not see, because we are building with the customers, right?
Yeah.
So we get to understand their pain point and then solve it beautifully.
Amazing.
Right? So that's
Yeah.
what we integrate in our product, and that's what we sell.
Yeah, no, I love that. That like being in a shell, making wild guesses of what a brand or your
Yeah.
client might need is not the
Absolutely.
way to go right
Absolutely.
now. With like so much tech
Yeah.
solutions and the model that is fast changing at hand, you have that luxury of sort of experimenting as you build, right?
Yeah.
And incorporating that customer feedback.
Absolutely.
So love that you guys are doing that, and thanks for sharing that. What I would want to understand next is the big piece of like you being a woman and an amazing entrepreneur and founder, right? And also like being part of Women in Product India community. Thanks for that, and thanks for inspiring us. Are there any unique challenges that you've encountered with that tag?
With being a woman?
With being a woman entrepreneur?
With being a woman entrepreneur. I mean, so I wouldn't say it has impacted much as much as people would want me to say that, hey, I'm a woman, and you know, like that there was like a lot of discrimination that happened, but like that's actually not true for me. I've seen it.
Great.
I'm not going to deny it has happened like 2-3 times, right? where we were talking to VCs, and I felt that I was being sidelined. My other co-founder was given like more chances, but not as much as you would think. It happened like, or out of like 50, 60 meetings we took, it happened in 2, 3 times.
Okay.
But I think the rest, people, in today's world and age, I have not seen my gender being a blocker for me.
That's amazing.
I've been
yeah.
giving good opportunities. Everybody treated me equally and with respect. I was not like that, hey, like, because
Yeah.
you're a woman, like, we're not going to give you money, or like, we're not going to listen to you, what you're selling to me. Sure, you have a good problem,
Yeah.
we'll take your solution. Sure, you have a good business model, we'll invest in you, is what
Amazing.
at least
Yeah.
my experience has been.
No, I think that is so lovely to hear and very refreshing, and that like shows the confidence and the strength that you possess. That wasn't even a barrier for you, right?
Yeah.
And compared to probably some folks who might have encountered that.
Yeah.
But yeah, like if you approach something with confidence, with enthusiasm, you will be met in the same way, right?
Yeah.
After you shared some of the amazing Indian brands that you're working with, right, in the D2C sector, what is your target market segment, would you say? Is it more for a global audience that you're targeting that now or in the future, or are you targeting more in terms of the Indian context?
So our solution, like, it is global, right? We started building in India because we wanted to, as I mentioned, right, we wanted to build with the customers. We didn't want to go that, hey, this is the problem statement you have, and then, this is a solution we have built, so buy it, right? We went it in the way that, hey, what is your problem statement? Like, can I build something, right? So, I think we did good enough of that with the Indian customers, and we have now started going into the global markets as well, and
Nice.
especially that's where we want to, where we want to expand, right?
Yeah, definitely.
And we ideally, like, we would want to be in the European markets, the US markets, the biggest fashion markets in the world.
For sure.
So that's
yeah.
definitely the vision, and that's definitely the
Amazing.
idea. We just like wanted to build the world-class product and then go to them. So that's what we
amazing,
waited
yeah.
for. But yeah, soon our product is gonna be out, and yeah, I mean, idea is to target these global markets and like work with them and help them with their photo shoots as well.
That's amazing, and definitely like it's a tried and tested approach and model, and then fashion and D2C brands are not reducing; they are just growing around the world, right?
Absolutely.
And they need Ayna.
Absolutely.
So it's really good to know that you are casting a wider net. Astha, with that, I would like to understand, how has the AI landscape sort of evolved since you started Ayna till like where we are at this point, right? How has that evolved, and what your journey and shift has been to sort of match that?
I think since we started, the models have become so powerful, right? I think ChatGPT, correct me if I'm wrong, like came in like 2022, right? And 2023, like again, like we have gotten these diffusion models, they're open source, you can train them. Limited, limited context and limited inference, and like not that big models cannot do much. So that's the era that we started in. Bang, in 2025, AI is doing everything for you, right? I mean, it is writing code, it is being your personal assistant, it's doing your itinerary, it is doing your LinkedIn post, it's doing everything for you, right? So it has at least gotten me 2x more productive, right? Or maybe 2x like more lazy, whatever you would like to say, because I'm working less.
Yeah.
But it's definitely like the speed of which things are going is like crazy, and I feel like the world that we are going to live in is going to change incredibly in the next 1 year. So AI is going to take over everything, is what I believe. And like people who don't know how to use AI will become obsolete.
That's for sure. And like interestingly, you mentioned like where your journey started and about diffusion models. I got introduced to diffusion models and like that these sort of models exist when I first attended a talk that you were speaking at. So thank you for introducing me to that.
Absolutely.
And yeah, like this is amazing work that you are doing, and we much needed, definitely. And I have a final question for you. So like before you started your entrepreneurial journey, is there a piece of advice that you wish that you would have gotten, or something like in the future Astha would have come and let you know that like be aware of this, or like just be prepared for this, what would that advice be that you would want to give aspiring entrepreneurs who are about to embark on their journey to be prepared with?
I think one advice that I want to give to people is trust yourself more. I think we really look for validation in others' eyes, and like we look for like our worth in people's eyes. But I would say like one thing that I was always looking for is, hey, will I be able to pull this off? Will I be able to, build a business? Like, what if like I waste 1 year? What if I waste 2 years? Right? But so I think one advice that I would want to give to my younger self and like to aspiring entrepreneurs is, hey, like just take the risk, okay? Take the step. What's the worst that will happen?
Yeah.
Right? Don't have plan B, don't have plan C. I have come out of like those years when I felt like, hey, like, and you know what, like, I have actually been trying to start some things for very, very long. I always thought that, hey, I'm going to do a 9 to 5, right? And then what if I do 5 to 9, right? What if like I explore something?
Yeah.
And like, this is going to be my plan B, right? And something like kicks off, sure, like I'm going to leave my job. I did that for 3 years. It never worked.
Yeah.
It never worked. So because I always had a plan B, I always had that, you know,
yeah, that cushion.
sure, like if it doesn't work, I'll do something else, you know, but like you run out of your patience. So take risk and, you know, just trust yourself. That's the most important thing.
Yeah.
That's the most important thing. So, and be confident. I think as one thing that I would want to address is that as women, like we are less confident. So men are more confident.
Yeah.
Right. So sure, like for entrepreneurs, I'll say take risks, but for women entrepreneurs, I'll especially say that, you know, trust yourself, trust your gut, take the step, take that risk.
Yeah.
And like, no, it's not that you're not going to fail. You're not going to fail. Trust yourself.
Yes, you will learn something out of it for sure.
You will learn something out of it. And it's not like it's the end of the world. We live in today's world where there is opportunity for everybody. Nobody cares whether like you took 1 year off. People are taking off to travel the world. You took off to, if you like took off to, you know, explore something, you got a good learning out of it, right?
Yes.
So take risk.
No, that is super inspirational and such a motivational thing to leave this discussion at. Astha, thank you for sharing all of the goodness. It was wonderful having you with us.
Thank you for having me here. It was great chatting with you.
Thank you.
Yay!